I'm not gonna lie, I totally intended to do a vlog. I brought my camera, I put it in my bag, and I proceeded to not pull out my camera even once during this entire event. There are literally no videos from the con on this camera. Oops. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel and to another video. Today we are going to be discussing Anime Expo 2025 that happened this past weekend. This was my third year attending in a row, and I feel like I'm a bit of a, not an expert, but I've got some experience. I know a thing or two about Anime Expo. I've made videos about it each year, so I figured I would do the same this year. And I'm gonna just kind of talk about my day-to-day experience there, as well as maybe talk about some of just my overall opinions on the con in this video. Now, before we dive into today's video, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment your thoughts on Anime Expo. Do you want to go someday? Give me your thoughts, give me your questions on attending. Did you attend this year? What were your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. And before I really dive into it, I just want to throw out there that I'm going to be talking about like my thoughts and feelings regarding this convention. I am very niche when it comes to what I get out of Anime Expo. My main reason for going is not only the fact that they bring Japanese voice actors, but that they bring Natsuki Hanai, who is Tanjiro's voice actor. So that's like the main pull, and I think there's probably less than 5% of attendees that are in the same boat as me. I'm sure there are a few people who go really specifically for him, but for the most part, I'm very, very niche when it comes to what I get out of Anime Expo because of that. So keep that in mind. I'm gonna be honest in this video. It might be very different from a lot of people's experience. But overall, if I had to give this year like a ranking of the 3 years I've attended, I would say, honestly, probably my second favorite, maybe even my third favorite year. And it's more because the word that comes to mind about Anime Expo 2025 is it felt like a filler year. And again, like, I'm gonna be so for real. A lot of people don't agree with me on this, and it is simply because my main focus is like the Demon Slayer stuff that is there, and there was a lot of good stuff there, which we'll talk about in a minute, but I felt like there was a lot of stuff at this con where it was like, okay, this anime is gonna come out soon, so they can't really talk about the season. They're not really making any announcements because they don't have any announcements to make because it's about to come out, so on and so forth. So it felt very like not much happened, I guess you could say, but I still had like a ton of fun. So first things first, I wanna talk about the fact that every single year that I've gone, I've actually driven over the day of, and I don't live in California, I live in Arizona, so it takes me roughly 7 hours to get from my house to the convention center, meaning that every year that I go, since I don't leave until early morning the day that it starts, I don't get there till early afternoon. I miss out on that like super well-known Anime Expo full lobby, which hasn't really been an issue. I think the last 2 years, they recently changed up how they did their hours. I remember the first year that I went in 2023, it still being a very big issue. People were talking about it, people were posting about it, but I always felt like people posted that picture of the lobby being super full and not really giving proper context to the situation, which I talked about a lot in my other Anime Expo videos, but I'll just briefly touch on the fact that that super full lobby was always what happened when the con would open at like 8:30, but the vendor hall wouldn't open until 10. So people were literally just waiting in line to get into the vendor hall, but because there were so many people just waiting, people were just standing there, and it made it very difficult to get to panels if you wanted to get to panels or that sort of thing. So I've never experienced the lobby being that full. Yes, it's a very crowded con. I would say if you are someone who doesn't like crowds, this con might not be for you. Even I this year found myself getting a little bit more annoyed with people than usual because there were times where I did feel a little bit more like suffocated by the amount of people that were around me. However, my experience at this con was very different than the last 2 years that I've done, so that, you know, that could be one of the main reasons why I had that experience. But it was more of just like, oh, there's a lot of people here, we're kind of shoulder to shoulder. That's a very common Anime Expo thing. It's not really dangerous, it's just more of an annoyance. That's just like a thought, is I always get there the day of. I do this so that I don't have to spend money on an extra hotel night, and I don't have to spend an extra PTO day at my job. Now, as far as Thursday goes, Thursday I did a lot of walking around. I tried to do a couple panels. They ended up being either I didn't want to wait in that line, it looked like I might wait and then not be able to get in, or it was already full when I got in line. I do think that there were some more issues with organization this year than there was last year, in my opinion. I had a lot more annoying moments this year with the way things were being run or lack of communication than I did last year. So in the case of the My Love Story with Yamada-kun, I was like standing in line and a lot of people were standing in line and we all thought we were just standing in line for the panel. And then all of a sudden we realized the panel was supposed to start at 2:45. We're still standing in line and it's like 2:50. So some of us are starting to speculate that like the panel is full, but no one's telling us. Finally, after like 15 minutes of waiting, the guy that was like running the door noticed how long of a line it was, and he told us that the room was full. And I was like, why wasn't that being announced as soon as people were gathering? And, you know, I always like to give the benefit of the doubt. I think the people running the lines are actually volunteers, meaning that it's likely they've never volunteered at Anime Expo before. They don't really probably get proper training because they're not getting paid. They're probably like showing up the day of and being told what to do, and then they have to kind of figure it out. And they're dealing with thousands upon thousands of people. So I give them the benefit of the doubt. They're just volunteers. They're doing their best. But yeah, I figured like, why not just notice that there's a line and be like, hey, it's full, so we're letting a few more people in as other people trickle out, but you're probably not getting in, especially if you're at a certain point in line. So that was like my first like, ugh, why didn't anyone just tell us? Because I just stood there in line by myself for 15 minutes only to be told that it was full the whole time. So that was like kind of my first about the organization of the con. It was also day one though too. So I feel like day one of most cons is kind of a mess, and then the volunteers and the staff kind of find their groove after day one and they're like, okay, we got it from here. So that's that. But I also did a Dandadan cosplay meetup. This was actually my first time doing cosplay meetups at this convention, which there's always a lot, but I'm always focused on just like hanging out with friends or doing panels. This year, because there were less panels that I actually wanted to do, and the group was trying to be more independent, so I didn't hang out with friends as much this year, I ended up getting to do some meetups, and that was fun. I made some new friends, and we goofed off a little bit. I got this fun picture. I love how anytime you see a Dandadan cosplayer now, the running joke is the golden balls. Like, someone has golden balls, people are taking pictures with the golden balls, people are making videos with the golden balls, they're being thrown around wherever, and it was just like so chaotic and so fun. So I got to cosplay Momo for that, and it was super fun. Made a few new friends. Hopefully I get to see them again next year. If you're watching this and you're one of my new friends from the Dandadan cosplay meetup, hi, hello. I hope I get to see you next year. But that was super fun. And then I think I ended up just kind of walking around the vendor hall. So let's talk about what was in the vendor hall, because this was one of the highlights of the con for me. I went into the vendor hall for the first time on Thursday, and there were two big things that I wanted to see here. Number one was the Aniplex booth. Now, the Aniplex booth usually has a lot of Demon Slayer stuff because Aniplex, of course, is the production company for Demon Slayer, and Demon Slayer is definitely their number one like popular title that they have. So they usually are pretty decked out in Demon Slayer. This year was actually a little bit different. So they were celebrating their 20th anniversary. So instead of it being super heavy Demon Slayer, they had a lot of their titles. They in fact had like a Hall of Fame where it was like a tunnel where you were walking through a lot of their most popular or most successful titles. There was Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, there was Fate, and there was a Demon Slayer part of it. It was really cool. There were cardboard cutouts of the characters, there was a little display of Nezuko's box, and they had a bunch of pictures from like all of the events that have happened here in the States. So like the world tours, the Anime Expo panels that have happened in the past. So that was pretty fun to look at. They also had these two like autograph cards from the voice actors of Tanjiro and Nezuko. So I enjoy that. Also, really cool thing is they had one of the scripts from the season finale of Hashira Training, which I took a picture of it. I think that kind of stuff is so interesting to me. I love to see kind of the behind the scenes type stuff. I wanted to see what the cover of the script was, and to know like in front of my face was probably one of the cast member scripts is just a really cool thought. If I could buy those and collect those, I would, but I've never found anyone trying to sell it because I think the cast members probably keep them, or I don't know. I don't know where they go. So that was really, really cool. But when it comes to the Aniplex booth, that was kind of it for Demon Slayer related stuff. But don't worry, there was something else. Now, the other thing, this I actually bought from the Aniplex booth. This was gonna be my only purchase. Spoiler alert. I did not only buy this, unfortunately. I was trying to budget, and I still did budget compared to the last 2 years that I've gone. I only got a couple things. This was like my original plan to purchase. I knew I was gonna buy it on day one because they sell out of their stuff. Aniplex had posted their catalog of stuff they were gonna be selling at Anime Expo early. I saw this, I said I wanna buy it. And it is a Demon Slayer Spirit jersey. So if you don't know what a Spirit jersey is, it's not really a sweater. It kind of looks like a sweater. It's like an oversized shirt. Like that's the best way I can describe it. Like this is a size small. I normally run about a size medium in most like regular clothes, but this is a size small and it still is like very loosely fitting on me. It's supposed to be that way. But as you can see, it's like the front has 2 pockets like the Demon Slayer uniform, and then the back has the Metsu kanji. So it's like a Spirit jersey version of the shirt that they wear with their uniform. So pretty cool. I knew ahead of time I wanted to buy it, and that was my plan, and I bought it first thing because they sell out of stuff super quick. Then, once I bought my thing, I went to the Crunchyroll booth, which you can't even really call it a booth. It's like a whole experience. In fact, I think the Crunchyroll area was the size of some vendor halls at some small cons. It was huge. And this was my bread and butter of this convention. I went here every single day, multiple times, because the Crunchyroll booth had a full Demon Slayer Infinity Castle setup. It probably took up about half of the Crunchyroll area, if I'm being completely honest. And it was so cool. You could walk up and there were cardboard cutouts of like all the characters that are gonna be in the Infinity Castle, which is, well, okay, no, they only had Demon Slayers. There were no demon cutouts. So, sorry. They did have demon cutouts the year before. They didn't have any demon cutouts this year, which was, I think, disappointing for some people. I prefer the Demon Slayers. I'm so basic, I don't care. But there were cardboard cutouts of all the Demon Slayers. You could walk up to a mirror, and they had it set up where if you took a picture at just the right way, it kind of looked like you were in the Infinity Castle. Kind of ruined by the large amounts of people behind you because there's just so many people at this con, but that was really cool. They had a big screen where part of the time there was this like interactive, you could put your hand over the sensor and you were literally controlling a crow flying through the Infinity Castle, which was really freaking cool. I didn't get any video of me doing it because whenever I was visiting this, I was by myself. So I'm like, I'm an extrovert, but I'm an introvert. I get scared to talk to strangers, but once I know someone, I will talk their ear off like nobody's business. So yeah, that's just who I am. So I didn't ask anyone to video me doing it. I should have, but oh well. But then at times they would be playing the trailer, which was super cool. You'd be walking through and you would just hear the like music and the voice acting, and it was just so cool. Anyway, so that was really cool. There was also multiple giant posters from Infinity Castle. And then there was this total concentration photo op opportunity, which I actually did while I was in Shinobu cosplay. Kind of funny because I was in Shinobu cosplay and the finished product is me water breathing. So I guess Shinobu is water breathing in this, but it was really, really cool. It's like a full like little 360 video thing that they did. Like you walked into this booth and there were just like these little cameras everywhere, and they're like, okay, just stand there in this position holding the sword and stare wherever, and yeah, and then it took like a few seconds and then you saw like a full 3D version of you water breathing, and it was really cool. They were also offering Tanjiro's Haori or Gyu's Haori, since those are the 2 water breathing people in the show, so that was pretty cool as well. But overall, just this was so much fun to walk through. I'm spending a lot of time on it because it was one of the highlights of the event for me. I like to shop and I'll spend a lot of money shopping. I don't get a ton of enjoyment over just walking around in vendor halls and that sort of thing. It gets really boring really quickly for me, and since I'm cosplaying, I get really uncomfortable really quickly. So when they have these kinds of things, I get way more into it. And that's one of the main grabs of Anime Expo for me. It's the only con I attend where they actually have official people there, like Crunchyroll and Aniplex and Toho and all those people. And all of them have things to buy, but also very interactive and really interesting booths that you can just walk around and see what's there. That's one of the things that I love about Anime Expo, is that it's not just like all of these vendors where they're just reselling figures. I swear in Arizona, there are like 5 vendors that look exactly the same, have the same overpriced figures, and it gets really repetitive and a little bit boring, which is why I cosplay at cons, because if I didn't, cons would not be as fun as they are to me. There's no enjoyment. Okay, there's a little bit of enjoyment, but there's no enjoyment out of just like seeing the same vendor 6 times and being like, okay, especially now that I've been to Japan where I was able to buy really cool figures for under $10. All of those figures are $35 or more. So it's like, I'm also spending way too much money. So that being said, that was really fun. And I swear I went there every single day. I was eating up the Demon Slayer stuff at Crunchyroll booth. So that was kind of the main thing. The entertainment hall, so the difference between vendor hall and entertainment hall can be a little bit blurred. The entertainment hall, you can buy stuff at those booths. However, they focus a little bit more on the interactive side of it. Like I did the Netflix interactive thing where it was like a whole course. Like you had to go down a slide, you had to walk through all this stuff. Obstacle course, thank you. Thank you, brain, for finally figuring that one out. And that was pretty fun. We waited over an hour to get into it though. So like that's also something to keep in mind, is anything you want to do, there's a line, except for walking through the Demon Slayer stuff at Crunchyroll, which is nice. Like you just kind of walk through and take pictures and videos and that sort of thing. Entertainment hall, you can buy stuff, but it focuses heavily on the experiences that you are doing. There's also cosplay sets in there, which is really fun. And then the vendor hall, there are also experiences, but it's focused more heavily on purchasing things. So that's kind of the difference between the two, in my opinion. Both are very large. There is not any shortage of things to do at Anime Expo. Believe me, you will have something to do and you will probably not get to do everything you want to do while you are there. Just throwing that out there. I kind of spent most of Thursday walking around that stuff, doing my meetup and just kind of getting used to the con. Now, let's talk about Friday. Friday was by far the best day of the con for 2 reasons. 1, the Demon Slayer concert. 2, the Apothecary Diaries panel. That's it. I want to talk about the Demon Slayer thing. I'm not going to do a whole video dedicated to it like I've done the last 2 years. Last 2 years I did full videos just discussing the panels. This wasn't a panel. So this year was just a concert, an orchestra concert, which by the way was really cool. I don't want to downplay how amazing this experience was. I'm just comparing it to the other 2 years that I've attended. So this year was an orchestra concert and live reading with Natsuki Hanai. There was aspects of this that was super magical. Like I definitely cried. So he came out in his Tanjiro Haori wearing the clip-on earrings and everything, which he does a lot in Japan. He's never done that here. So there was just something so beautiful about that. A lot of people find the live dubbing stuff kind of weird because these are voice actors. They're not actually like live action actors. So the anime plays in the background and they stand there and read a script. I always find these very interesting because I find it interesting to watch the voice actors do their thing because we don't see them ever when we watch anime. We hear them. So it's interesting to watch them do it and see like, what does their face do? Do they have any techniques? Do they have to like move their head around? Do they have to look up, look down, you know, like that sort of thing? I always just find that kind of stuff very interesting. So I really enjoy it. On top of that, we got Hinokami Kagura live in person. That was insane. Like he's just standing there. He's just standing there with a script in his hands, but he is just like giving this heart-filled, super emotional performance while they're live playing Kamado Tanjiro no Uta. So that in itself is just such a magical experience that I can't really explain how beautiful that was. However, I still felt like this year was very filler. So the last 3 years that I have gone, or the last 2 years before this, because this was my 3rd year, Anime Expo was held like directly after the end of a season. So the first year we went was 2023, Swordsmith Village ended a couple weeks beforehand. Last year was 2024, Hashira training literally ended a couple days before Anime Expo. So they had all of this like new season to discuss. So they had a full panel where the voice actors are there. They do a little bit of live dubbing, but not much. It's more of a Q&A, and they're talking about the production. They're talking about the experience and their thoughts on the show and that sort of thing. And it's just more like them as people rather than them as the voice actors, right? I really enjoy that because there's a little bit more interaction. They don't do like questions from the crowd. Last year, they had the interaction at the end where they had cosplayers stand up, they waved, you know, like that was a really spectacular and amazing experience. I was cosplaying Tanjiro at the time, so he waved at me and I freaked out. Anyway, this one was not interactive at all. Like it was the concert, he walked out, he did 3 scenes, and then he came out at the very end, we never saw him again. Like that was it. And it just felt like a filler because since they can't talk about the movie yet, it's not out, I felt like what Anime Expo and Aniplex was doing is they were just trying to offer something Demon Slayer related because they know people are going to go and see it, right? People are going to fill the room and go to a Demon Slayer thing, and that is what happened. It was like they were just trying to fill this like year where they didn't really have anything to talk about with something that would make people excited and happy, but not what they normally do. So it was beautiful. Alex Lee also showed up. Alex Lee is the English voice of Zenitsu, and it's kind of one of those like you had to be there moments, but they did this scene where Zenitsu and Tanjiro meet where Zenitsu is like, I'm scared, you have to save me, Tanjiro, what's your name, blah, blah, blah. And it's the scene where like Tanjiro makes that like face at him that's like a meme, you know, like the absolutely disgusted with him. And it was hilarious because Alex Lee is performing as Zenitsu in English, and then Hanai-san is performing as Tanjiro in Japanese. So there was this like, they're having a conversation, but they're speaking in different languages. And it was, looking back, it doesn't sound that funny. It was hilarious. Like people just could not stop laughing. There was something about it. Also, their dynamic was just super cute. They're already friends. They like know each other kind of as much as you can when there's a language barrier. And Alex was all like hanging on to his howdy, and like Hanai-san was just like looking at him, like making judgmental faces. It was very funny. It was hilarious. That was one of the highlights of the event. The highlight was Hanai-san doing the Hinokami Kagura sequence though. I definitely cried a lot. So anyway, it was a very beautiful experience. It was just very different from the normal Anime Expo experience because there wasn't like audience interaction at all. It wasn't a panel. It was just like, he came, he performed, he left. And he vanished. Like he did not do anything else. The first year I was there, he did 3 panels. The second year I was there, he did 2 panels. This year he did about roughly 5 minutes of stuff, which was so funny. I'm like, bro, you flew to the other side of the world to do 5 minutes of performance and fly home. Like, you know what? I'm sure he's getting paid big bucks to do it, and he likes coming here, although I think he's getting bored. He did a live stream to members only, and he was like, yeah, there's not really much to do. And I was like, oh bro, you're bored. Please keep coming though, please. Anyway, so that was really cool. A different thing too was, so Demon Slayer always happens in main events. So main events is the panel room with the largest amount of seating because it's where they put all of the main stuff that's going to get the most amount of people interested, right? So main events, the last 2 years I went, was in a like ballroom inside the convention center that I believe sat around 4,000 people. While this year, main events moved to the Peacock Theater, which is across the street from the convention center. And I believe it sits around 7,000 people. So much bigger. And that's definitely a pro to it, is that like you just have space for a lot more people for an event like that. I think the Demon Slayer event still didn't fill the room, but I think they got probably around 5,000 to 6,000 people in there when they usually cap it off at 4,000. So that's an extra 1,000 to 2,000 people that got to attend this year. Good for them. There's a lot of pros to this, but I found a lot of cons to it being in the Peacock Theater. Number one was it's just not as convenient because it's not inside the convention center like it's been the past. And it's kind of nice when it's inside the convention center because it's easy to get there, it's easy to leave, that sort of thing. When it's in the Peacock Theater, no, you're not crossing like a busy street of cars because they closed that road and it's still a part of Anime Expo, but you have to like tap out of the convention and then you have to go to a new entrance and tap in. But the main problem I had was that the line for main events is no longer covered. The queue for main events has always been in this, like, it's outside, but it's covered by shading. And in California, summers to me are very mild. I live in Phoenix, Arizona. It is currently like 112 degrees every day. You know, like it is hot here. And in California, like the hottest day we were there was like 81. So to me, that's like amazing. However, when the sun is beating down on you and you are in cosplay, that is not pleasant. But when they have it in the shaded area, it's very pleasant. Like all you need is some shade in the summer in California and it's fine. Like it's a pleasant day. But if the sun is beating down on you, it's horrible, especially when you're in cosplay. You have a wig on your head, so you're like not regulating your temperature as well. It was a bit miserable when I waited in line the last day. I got in line for Kaiju number 8 at around 11:30 and we were waiting in line for just 20 minutes and that was miserable because it was directly in the sunlight. So I think they need to find a way to make that line. If main events continues to be held in Peacock Theater, I'm fine with that. They need to find a way to shade the queue for it, or they just need to start letting people in a lot sooner. For some reason, they like refuse to let people in until like 20 minutes before the panel starts. And that caused the Demon Slayer thing to actually start 30 minutes late. Now, that was the other issue I had with the Demon Slayer thing. So they scheduled it for 10:30 to 12, which was really cool. I was like a whole 90 minutes of a concert with live reading. I thought it was going to be like a very robust thing because it was an hour and a half. It ended up starting at 11 and ending at 11:55. And I think that was kind of one of the things that made me a little bit sad was I thought it was going to be a little bit more than it was. So like Hanai-san was only out there 3 times and one of them he barely spoke because it was more about Alex Lee, which is fine. Like again, I don't want to act like, oh my gosh, it was so bad. Like it was amazing and I cried. Like it was just, if it was going to be an hour the entire time, they should have said it was going to be an hour. Like that was the main thing where I was very confused. I was like, why is it 11 to 12? If it's 11 to 12, make it 11 to 12, not 10:30 to 12 when you advertise for it. But they need to let people in a lot sooner than 30 minutes beforehand. And I think they did for Demon Slayer. I think they let us in 35 minutes early, but they were still like getting people in the door at 11. Like people were still getting in. And if I remember correctly, in previous years, when it came to the main events queue, they were like constantly trying to get it to move throughout the day, where you might end up in the panel room during the panel before the one you want to actually get to, but you're at least in the building and it's like air conditioned and that sort of thing. This year, it seemed like they specifically were not letting people in until the panel before ended, the people cleared out, and then they let more people in, which I just felt was not a great way to do it because it just meant that more people were waiting outside where it wasn't shaded in the sun. I'm surprised. I didn't hear that anyone like collapsed due to heat exhaustion, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was some issues and that sort of thing. They just kept it on the down low. But yeah, so that was like my main thing. I think it's good that main events is in the Peacock Theater now because it seats so many more people and it's just like a much more grand experience. But I did not like the way they ran the queue for it or the fact that there were 2 entrances for main events. And it meant that some people got there way later than us and got better seats than us, you know, like that kind of thing just kind of annoys me. So overall, though, it was an amazing experience, the Demon Slayer thing. I will hold on to the memories of Hanai-san wearing Tanjiro's Howdy and earrings and performing for us live. I will hold on to those memories forever because that's something that not many people get to say they witnessed. Also, fun fact, when he walked out the first time, the guy behind me, random dude, was like, oh my God, look, it's the real Tanjiro. Like, that's the real Tanjiro in the flesh. And I was just like, like, this is my 5th time seeing him in person. Yeah. And at this point, it's like, oh, look, Hanai-san, there you go. Anyway, so that was really cool. The other cool thing about Friday at Anime Expo, this video is so all over the place and I'm so sorry, but was the Apothecary Diaries panel. Now, this one might be something, I don't know how many of you know, Apothecary Diaries has become one of my favorite animes over the last season that just came out. I don't know why it's coming into hyperfixation territory because it's not the kind of anime that usually does, but it is, and I love it. So I actually attended the Apothecary Diaries panel that day dressed as Mao Mao. I'll put a picture right here. And this was a crazy experience. So this was more of a regular panel, and the voice actors, the Japanese voice actors for Mao Mao and Shisui attended. And fun fact, the voice actor for Shisui is also Nobara in Jujutsu Kaisen and Mina in Kaiju number 8. So I really liked that aspect of it as well. And this was more of a regular panel. They did a Q&A with them. They talked about the season and that sort of thing. And then they did a couple of just quick live dubbing moments. I found watching Mao Mao's voice actor, Yuki-san, I found her very interesting because I figured she had like a lower register voice because when she voice acts for Mao Mao, it's a very like low, raspy voice. No, she doesn't. She speaks like any other person. I don't know how to describe it. But when she was live dubbing and she went into that Mao Mao voice, again, just very interesting to watch them do their thing and kind of pick up on different techniques. And to me, it looked like she kind of had to go like this and like tuck her chin in a little bit to like get in touch with that lower register in order for her to do Mao Mao. Very, very interesting. They had a lot of really cool things to say too, that just like really, they love Apothecary Diaries, and Shisui's voice actor had to go back and forth between kind of two different characters, and that was really interesting. Mao Mao's voice actor mentioned that Jinshi's voice actor really wanted to come and was kind of jealous. I would love for him to come because I love him as Jinshi, and he's also Tsukasa in Medalist, so I'd love to see him. But overall, that was really cool. But the cherry on top of the Apothecary Diaries panel was at the end. They not only had Apothecary Diaries cosplayers stand up, they had us walk to the front of the stage. So I got to say a whole konnichiwa to the voice actors. And this was my favorite moment of the con, which is crazy because every year I've been able to say Demon Slayer is my favorite thing about Anime Expo. This year was this moment in the Apothecary Diaries panel, getting to walk up and just like give them hand hearts and like wave, and they were like, ah, and I was like, konnichiwa. And it was just like, it was so cool, and they were all surprised because like literally like 20 Mao Maos just like come rushing up to the front of the stage. It was so cute, and they were just so sweet. I'll put the picture, and I'm literally like right there. And that was just so cool. It's like, I've never met any of the Japanese voice actors. There's been a few that have come and done signings at local cons for me, but I've never like paid the money to actually get an autograph from them. So that was like the closest I've gotten to like be a absolute fangirl and be like, I interacted with my favorite celebrities. And it was just a really cool experience. So Friday was definitely my favorite day of the con. We got to kind of walk around in the middle too, which we usually don't get to do. Usually the days where like Demon Slayer happens, Demon Slayer is the last con of the day, and we camp out in that panel room the entire day. I know a lot of people don't like that people do that. I always enjoy doing that. I actually kind of missed that this year. I missed being in the panel room all day. Like, that was always super fun. I don't know why, it just was. And we didn't do that this year, so I kind of missed that. But Friday was super, super fun. Saturday. So Saturday was actually my least favorite day of the con. And I was looking forward to it because I had no plans except for the Demon Slayer cosplay meetup. I did cosplay Shinobu this day, and that doesn't have anything to do with it being my least favorite day. So Saturday's the busiest day of the con, first of all. And usually I miss it because usually I'm in the panel room all day long, because in previous years, Demon Slayer has been the last panel on the most busy day because it's had that like prime time slot of the evening of the busiest day of the con. Well, this year they gave Dandadan that slot. I did not go because it was just dub voice actors, and it was during the Demon Slayer cosplay meetup. If any of the Japanese voice actors had attended the Dandadan panel, I would have chosen that over the Demon Slayer cosplay meetup. But since it was just dub, I don't watch it dub, I didn't really feel the need to go. So this day was just a walk around day and just the hour-long cosplay gathering. I very quickly realized I do not like going to Anime Expo just to walk around. Kind of like I touched on earlier, I don't get a ton of enjoyment out of just walking around and shopping. I did buy more stuff than I wanted. I got a figure, a Shinobu figure. I'll actually grab her. This is actually my first Shinobu figure. I have one acrylic stand that I got of her in Japan, but I actually got a Shinobu figure. It was on sale for like $19, so it was like actually a decent deal, and I was cosplaying Shinobu. So yeah, went a little over budget that day. But my feet were hurting at this point because they were still hurting from the day prior because I was wearing like Mau Mau's ballet flats and there was just no support, so my feet already hurt. And I just found myself getting like almost bored. Like, I chose to not do any panels because there was nothing that I was interested in that day. Like, literally not one panel piqued my interest at all on Saturday except for Dandadan, but it was the dub voice actor, so I didn't go. I just like, I didn't do any panels and I walked around and I thought I was going to enjoy that. I did not. Like, truly. And I think this is one of the reasons why I didn't get as much enjoyment out of this con as I have the last 2 years, is I genuinely enjoyed doing the camp out days where we just got to watch a bunch of different panels, and then we ended it with like a big Demon Slayer, and the energy was super, super big. That was the other difference. The concert, like, people were not as like loud and crazy as they should not be because it was like an actual performance. The Demon Slayer panels the last 2 years, one of my favorite things about it was how enthusiastic the audience was and how like loud and excited everyone was. It just wasn't quite the same. In fact, the first time Hanai-san walked out onto the stage in Demon Slayer, I don't think people noticed it was him. Like, I knew it was him immediately, obviously, because I know who he is, and also he's wearing Tanjiro's howdy. It took people like a couple seconds, and we're all like, woo! And then he started going, and we're like, oh, be quiet. So it was very different. So I kind of miss that like hype feeling. And part of that was like the fun of camping out. I don't know, like, I just genuinely enjoyed camping out in the panel room, and I miss that this year. It's more fun because you can rest your feet, you get to experience other panels that maybe you normally wouldn't see. And yeah, I missed that. I did not like just walking around the con all day. Like, I'm gonna be so for real. Again, this is just my opinion. I get bored very easily and uncomfortable. Like, I was uncomfortable because it was super crowded and I wasn't really buying much. So I was just kind of walking around trying to find things to do, constantly wanting to sit down. The Demon Slayer cosplay meetup was fun, but honestly, there were so many people. There were probably well over 100 cosplayers because it's such a big anime. And that was cool. Like, being surrounded by a bunch of Demon Slayer lovers is always fun. The problem is when there's so many people and there's no real way around this, you're just doing a lot of standing around. And being an introvert when it comes to meeting strangers, I very much struggle with just like mingling with other people. I was the only one in my friend group there. Most of the other people at this meetup had friend groups with them, so they were already talking. So I ended up making a couple friends, but like the friend that I had there, I had actually kind of met her the day before, so I already knew who she was, and I kind of just talked to her the entire time. And then there was this like really cute little tiny Shinobu cosplayer that like tapped me on the shoulder, well, not the shoulder because she was too short, like on the leg, and was like, it was good. Like, it was fun to be around so many Demon Slayer cosplayers, but most of it is just standing around because you're waiting your turn. Like, at the end of the day, with so many cosplayers gathering and there was only an hour that we could do it, you essentially only have time to do each group. Like, okay, let's do Tanjiro's and then Nezuko's. Okay, let's do Tanjiro and Nezuko. Okay, let's do Zenitsu's. Let's do Inosuke. Okay, we're going through all 9 of the Hashira. So you're waiting until it's your turn. I think we did Shinobu, and then we did Shinobu and Gyu. For some reason, that was the only time they grouped Hashira together, except for all 9 Hashira. Yeah. And then we did pictures at the end that was like everyone, and then like demons versus demon slayers. And that was it. So there was an opportunity to do any extra pictures, and most of the time we were just kind of sitting around waiting. So it was fine. I don't usually do the Demon Slayer cosplay meetup because it was always happening during the Demon Slayer panel, and I always prioritize that. I would still prioritize it if it fell during the same time. The bigger the cosplay gathering, the less fun it is because the more just waiting around you're doing. Anyway, so it was good. Outside of that, Saturday was really just walking around. I spent a lot of time at the Demon Slayer booth again. That was the day that I did the Total Concentration photo booth, and that was that. I went to bed at like 8 p.m. because I was exhausted. The final day. So the final day we did the Kaiju number 8 panel, which was one of the highlights. So they had the Japanese voice actor of Kafka and the English voice actor of Kafka, and their dynamic was chaotic, hilarious, and sweet. At one point they were kissing each other on the cheek. Yes, that's a thing that happened. So his Japanese voice actor, first of all, is a hoot. That's such a weird word. But he was just like running around on the stage and doing all kinds of off-script stuff, and he was really cute, and he used a lot of English, and it was adorable. And the dynamic between him and the English voice actor was really cute. I really do like, even though I don't watch English dub, I have been enjoying this uptick in these like bonds being built between the Japanese and the English voice actors. They were like saying like, I love you, and like, you're my best friend, and it was really cute. You always wonder like, is it just for the pictures? But like, they were tweeting each other afterwards, and it was really cute. Alex Lee and Natsuki Hanai are like good friends. Interestingly enough, I don't see much about Hanai-san and Zach Aguilar, who's the English dub of Tanjiro. They did have a dynamic. I saw them in the world tour a couple years ago, but it felt more like Zach was just in awe of him the entire time rather than his friend, which like, honestly, same. So, you know, but then also the English voice actor of Okonun and Dandadan, I just saw him tweet that he ran into Hanai-san on the elevator and they both voiced Okonun, so they took a picture. I just really like the wholesome, like, development of these relationships being built between these voice actors. And I think it's because the Japanese voice actors are coming to America a lot more because they're kind of understanding how popular anime is here. So they're coming more and they're enjoying it and that sort of thing. So there's more opportunity for that. And I really, really do like that. But the Kaiju number 8 panel was hilarious. And one of the highlights as well, because it was just so fun. There were tears. There was all kinds of fun dynamics, and that was super fun. But other than that, the only other thing I did on Sunday, because I was very tired and I wanted to get home, and we had to drive all the way home on Sunday, and then I had to be at work at 6 a.m. the next day. So we left at like 1:30-ish on the last day. But before we did that, thank you to my Twitter follower, and I think you follow me on here, so you know who you are, for sending me this on Twitter, because my goal was to not touch Artist Alley. So Artist Alley is where all of the artists go, like, and they do fan art. Vendor Hall and Entertainment Hall are more like the official stuff. Artist Alley is, you know, you supporting local artists, right? I was not gonna go there because I knew I was gonna spend too much money. So I didn't see this until this person tweeted it to me. And I do not regret buying this at all. Like, just to throw out there. So for those of you who don't know, if you follow me for Demon Slayer, I did a lot of Medalist stuff. I am a figure skater, and Medalist is an anime about figure skating. I reacted to it. I'll put the playlist in the description. It means a lot to me. It is not popular here. It did not gain any type of popularity outside of Japan. Like 90% of the people who are viewing my videos that I was reacting to Medalist were Japanese. So like, it's not gonna be a common thing to see here. The last con I went to, I got some keychains, but this time I got a print. So you best believe this will be in my background once I redecorate this office, when it turns into like the studio that I want. But that was the highlight of the last day. I left late so I could go and see it and buy it after Kaiju number 8. I went over budget to buy it. I don't regret it, because this is one of those things where Medalist is the type of merch, you see something, you buy it, because you don't know how long it's gonna be till you see something else for it. So it was so cute and really adorable, and I'm so glad I found it. But that's kind of the experience. Now, really quick, I just wanna touch on the fact that I did find this con this year to be less organized than last year. I felt like the line situations were kind of all over the place. I also don't know if this was new this year or if I just got lucky enough to never experience it the 2 prior years. But in the convention, so the convention center has 2 separate buildings, and you have to kind of, like, there is an indoor walking area, like a balcony area, to get in between the 2 main buildings, but you can also walk outside to get to the 2 main buildings, right? And this is a very, very crowded con. There are lots of people. I, multiple times, was walking outside to get from one building to the next, usually because I had somewhere to be, and I'm suddenly stopped by like security guards. Like you can't, like you gotta wait. So essentially what was going on is there were smaller panel rooms in the like hallway in between the two main buildings. And all of those queues were like outside. So I'm gonna try and explain this to you. So here's the convention building. Here are the lines for those panel rooms. And here's the walkway that people are just taking to get in between the two rooms. Not to get to panels, but to get to the main rooms, right? Whenever they were trying to get these lines into the panel rooms, they shut down the walkway in between. And I get it, like they had to so that they could get the lines through, but there was one point where I waited 20 minutes before I got to go anywhere. And people could have missed panels, could have missed meetups, you know, because like it was just blocked. And the only way to get around it would be to go all the way back where you came from and like loop around, have to go up a bunch of stairs and like that sort of thing. So I just felt like I understand why they were doing it. I felt like they needed to split it off where it's like, okay, let 100 people through, then let some people walk and then close it off again and let more people through. And it all goes back to the fact that they wait too long to let people into these panel rooms. Let people into the panel rooms sooner. Like that's like the main thing is let people get in earlier, that sort of thing, which I felt like they've been doing in the past. I don't know why they didn't do. So outside of that, like it was still very well run. I just felt like there were more hiccups this year, things that annoyed me more than normal. So I would say like last year was still my #1 year so far. With the year before that, the organization was a mess the year before that, but I had a lot more fun than this year. And I think, again, it's just because this year felt filler. It was very different. You know, there wasn't the camp out. There wasn't a big Demon Slayer panel. It was just a concert with a little bit of live reading. And I was like a lot more independent and by myself, which is just not as much fun. So I think that was like the main reason. Am I going to go to Anime Expo next year? Of course. Did I have fun this year? Of course. It was just different. It was just a very different year. So it was amazing though. I still 10 out of 10 recommend going to Anime Expo. If you are someone who likes cosplay, if you're someone who likes being able to see Japanese voice actors, if you're someone who likes being able to go to like official merch places and get to experience some like really cool experiences, then go. If you're someone who just goes to cons to shop and just, or like doesn't like crowds, I don't know if Anime Expo is for you. Because when I tried to do just like a day of shopping, I did not like it. So that is that. It was overall still a lot of fun. I still enjoyed myself, but I give this year like an 8 out of 10 when I gave last year like a 9.5 out of 10 and probably a 9 out of 10 to the year before. So that is gonna be it for today's video. If you liked it, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment your thoughts on Anime Expo. Also, don't forget to follow me on social media. I'm at Hannah Malay on Instagram, where you'll get to see some more of my cosplay stuff from Anime Expo, and at lookingnerdy on X. Oh, I'm at Hannah Malay on TikTok as well. But with that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Matane!